On FM.
Online.
DAB Digital Radio.
And Freeview Channel 734.
This is BBC Radio Northampton.
Right now, I'm delighted to say that a man of words, a wordsmith by anybody's reckoning, has just walked into the studio. James McInerney. It's been a while since we've had him in, and I did say to him whilst Grace was playing, I did say to him, what are we going to feature on? So I've got some heads up as to what sort of stories we're talking about. And he said, last time I was here, it was all about Brexit. James, is it all about Brexit today again?
It's all about Brexit again. Surprise, surprise. It's like coming home.
We have got used to it. I was amazed yesterday morning to sit down and think, it's the second anniversary of the Brexit vote. And still, we don't really know how it's all going to fall out.
Well, there was a massive march in London yesterday, central London. 100,000 people attended. The irony is that 17.4 million people voted to leave, and 100,000 people turned out. But it was a summer of action, a campaign to increase pressure on Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn, to get things done. But people want a second vote. They voted, obviously they voted to leave. Since then, 2 years, people have kind of changed their mind.
Given that variation in numbers, though, what was it, 57-43? I think it was.
It was close.
Do the majority of people actually want a second vote? Is that what the papers are saying? Because can you really judge that from 100,000 normal people? This was a point that was made, wasn't it? It wasn't about politicians yesterday. It was about real people taking to the street. Does the paper give that as an indication that, yes, there really should be a second referendum?
I think there is. I think people kind of said they want a second referendum. When they kind of voted the first time, which is 2 years, all the facts weren't out. People were misled. That's how they felt. 2 years since then, a lot of debates, a lot of talks. People have changed their mind and scared what will happen when we leave. No one really knows until we leave. And at that point, it's too late, isn't it?
All this week it's been about whether or not there's going to be a meaningful vote on the deal that has been done before the deal is finally signed, sealed and delivered. What do you think is going to happen?
I think people don't really know what's going to happen. People want so many things with the deal, and so many people want ideas of what they want, but will it happen? What will we lose? What will we gain? They said by kind of leaving we gain loads of money back and everything, but what do we lose? You look at some of the cars like on the BBC yesterday, the Mini Cooper, iconic car, a lot of the parts are made in the EU if you break it down into that. So, it could have a real impact.
And we did have stories about the possibility of big names moving from the UK, BMW being one, Airbus being another. There could be a long-term knock-on for this.
There was a big thing about Project Fear, wasn't there? Like people, there was a fear that was all out. And I think a lot of companies are saying they're going to pull out, and again, that's there. So
You're a man of letters. You are a writer in your own right. Rather than the journalistic side, does this inform the way you write and the way you evaluate and put people forward in your writing as a result? I
think, my writing is all about people. I write about how people feel and things like that. And obviously, at this point in time, people are kind of scared, anxious and not sure. And I don't think anyone really knows. There's a lot of ideas and theories of what might happen. But until it happens, you don't know.
So do you think the press, writers of a different kind, do you think they manipulate public feeling or do they report public feeling?
I think a bit of both, really. Everyone's got an agenda, haven't they, when it comes to the media, and what they want to put across, what they want. They want them to leave for this reason, they want to stay for this reason, and I kind of think people have to make their own mind up.
Difficult when you've got different papers supporting different political standpoints too. Yeah. All right, that's one story. Give me another one that's jumped out for you.
So the main one in all the stories is the Russian World Cup. England take on Panama at 1 o'clock today.
If you want to go anywhere into town and do some shopping, 1 o'clock today, it'll be very quiet, I would imagine.
Although the pubs will be pretty full, won't they?
Yes, they will. Yeah, you won't be able to get a pint.
If they win, they'll be in the final 16 of the World Cup. They're currently Belgium are leading their group, which is Group G. Belgium have won both their games. Panama haven't won any of their games yet, so it looks like I would say, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, England are probably going to beat Panama.
Yeah, but how many people would have bet last night that Sweden would take Germany to the point where at least it was a draw or even a defeat, and yet within 15 seconds of extra time, Germany had got themselves the win.
I know.
You can't bet against it happening against England this afternoon, can you?
I know. I mean, but they look in a good, strong position, and they've not basically gone past the quarter-final stage of a World Cup or European Cup for 22 years.
There's been quite a lot of talk about the Russians hosting the World Cup. There was a lot of fear about violence on the streets and the way the Russians would handle, actually, the World Cup. It seems to have been actually a very friendly tournament so far. Does that come across in the writing?
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously in previous World Cups we've had with the English fans, we've had problems and things like that, and people were scared to go over and everything. But it looks good. I mean, it's good for the country as well. It's good publicity for them, and everything goes okay. That's all you need, really, isn't it?
All right, well, we'll wish Harry Kane and the England squad, plus their manager with his dislocated shoulder. I noticed he wasn't using a sling. He seemed to be just taking it in his stride, literally. So we'll wish Mr. Southgate and his squad all the very best at 1 o'clock. There'll be nerves both here and over there, I'm sure. Give us another story, James. What's appealed to you?
The big thing kind of on the news and in the papers is child obesity. Their attempt to obviously cost to the NHS is big, so an attempt to halve the number of obese children by 2030, which is a challenge because of the amount of energy drinks that are on sale. They're looking at banning the sale of some energy drinks, kind of removing sweets at the shop counters, banning TV adverts before 9 p.m. for foods in high sugar, fat and salt, just to kind of,
Are you a dad?
I am 2 children, yes.
How old are they?
18 and 15.
You don't look old enough. 18 and 15. What's their consumption of sugary drinks? Because at some point you just have to let them make their own mind up, don't you?
Yeah, well, obviously the media kind of helps, steers them in the right direction as well, because there is a kind of fear, isn't there, with obviously obesity and things like that. So yeah, we do monitor what they eat, but I mean, it's up to the individual as well, isn't it? You can put all this stuff in the media about things.
So what's your reaction to this kind of journalism? Do you back it? Do you take notice of it? Does it seem like the nanny state shouting at you?
I think I do back it, because I mean, obviously with obesity it causes all types of problems, and being in children as well, you know, half the children, to try and reduce them by 2030 is a big task, because of the amount of shops, supermarkets out there with reduced priced goods. Fizzy drinks are everywhere. You can get them dirt cheap now.
And we live in difficult economic times for the shopkeepers.
Yeah. And people, of course, haven't got as much money, so they're buying the cheaper version, which is probably high in sugar. So it is tough times.
Where were you reading that today?
That was the Telegraph.
Okay, and what's the overall feeling of the Telegraph's writing? Are they in support of the call?
Definitely in support.
Okay.
I mean, you could not be in support of trying to have, obese children by 2030, because it's good for children, is it?
Very good point. Give me another one.
We have Game of Thrones.
Oh, really? Right.
Yes.
Oh, now you're a writer, so this ought to be interesting.
Well, I don't like Game of Thrones, sorry.
Heresy!
Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, and Rose Leslie, I don't know how to spell her name, but they met in the show in 2012 and they fell in love. And they got married in Aberdeenshire yesterday, and that's all over pretty much all the papers.
It's an interesting celebrity story. I mean, the story about Jon Snow and whether Jon Snow would be reappearing in Game of Thrones kept the producers going for a couple of years, didn't it? Yes, I won't say too much. And yet, you haven't engaged with Game of Thrones, have you?
No.
It's not something that's ever taken you.
I mean, there's so many TV shows to watch, so many things to do, and you've only got so many hours in the day. But they're in quite a lot of seasons down the line now, and to start, you have to binge watch a lot of box sets, and I ain't got time.
So for you, is Game of Thrones just a badge rather than something artistic that you've taken any notice of?
Yeah, I just think I've never really got into it. I think it's the time period it's set in and all that. It just doesn't really appeal to me at all.
So where does art imitate life, and are we expecting this wedding to have anything to do with future storylines of Game of Thrones?
Well, they've got a few spin-offs, because Game of Thrones is obviously finishing.
Yep.
But they've got a few spin-off TV shows because it's money, isn't it?
You see, this is a man who makes a living out of words, and is absolutely under no doubt whatsoever that there's going to be some kind of economic underlining of all of that. Yes. Let's talk about you and your writing.
Yep.
For people who've perhaps not encountered you before, what are you, a poet, a prose, a comic? What's your writing?
Well, I write poetry, but I mean, poetry and prose are pretty much the same thing nowadays. If you look at the top writers, they're all kind of like doing both, and they interchange. And I've been writing since about 1998. Been on the BBC for about many years now, and just kind of got into writing. I went on the BBC, and one of the kind of presenters said, "Have you not got a book out? You need to have a book out." So I got a book out, and then it kind of went from there. And then I'm writing my 4th book, which is out this year, and then 5th book next.
What's your 4th book about?
I write basically Love Lost. and that kind of thing, because
You're a hopeless romantic.
I am, but people really like it, and I've got a lot of fans, and especially on Instagram, and they kind of buy the books, come to the events, and take selfies and stuff like that. And I also kind of work with children as well. I've worked with the library service, and I do workshops, and I go into schools.
What's your view in that case of what's going on potentially with libraries in this county?
I know, terrible, shocking. I went to a lot of the meetings they had, and to just close them down like that, and just, you know, it really is up in the air still. I don't think they really know what is going on.
21 are at risk. What, I mean, presumably you would back the local community groups that would like to keep them open.
And I think it's just, again, funds, trying to reduce the amount they pay out. But again, the balance of funds is just a bit off.
The fourth book is on the point of being released, or is there out?
This autumn.
Okay. What's it going to be called?
It's called The Pieces That Collide.
The Pieces That Collide. All right. We'll perhaps get you on the book club. It'd be nice to do that. Fifth book to come at a future date.
Yep.
If, in a few seconds, you can tell me there was a particular breakthrough point for you as an author, what was it?
It was probably actually when I started going on the social networking sites and started sharing my work with a larger audience, and people started liking it, and I kind of thought to myself, I was doubted whether it was good enough before, but people said yes. So
the strength of public support really makes the difference. James, a real pleasure to have you in.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed for doing that. James McInerney, locally based writer, fifth book on the way, fourth book out this autumn.
On FM,
online,
DAB digital radio,
and Freeview channel 734.
This is BBC Radio Northampton.
And of course we'll get him in to have a chat about it when it gets released. Thank you, James.